French forces have been withdrawn from Mali. They've been withdrawn from Burkina Faso, and now they're in the last weeks of their full withdrawal from Niger at the requirement of the Nigerian junta. So that leaves
The vacuum.
well, worse than a vacuum. It leaves Wagner, it leaves Russian influence, and it leaves leaderships, certainly in Mali.
Welcome again to another episode of the WSXM podcast, where a united Africa is an undisputed Africa. So let's get into it. In a Senate Macau, there was having a briefing in the Senate about Africa, the continent, and they were mostly focusing on the Sahel countries, which includes Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. That was the most they focused about. Take a listen to this briefing and listen to what they are saying keenly, and then we'll discuss it after. Boom.
Can you tell me about, because you have the Wagner Group trying to provide stability, sort of like a military police force, and then you've got the radical Islamists in the Sahel, and then you have the French. Now, what does it look like for the French now in that part of the world?
French forces have been withdrawn from Mali. They've been withdrawn from Burkina Faso, and now they're in the last weeks of their full withdrawal from Niger at the requirement of the Nigerian junta. So that leaves
The vacuum.
That leaves, well, worse than a vacuum. It leaves Wagner, it leaves Russian influence, and it leaves leaderships, certainly in Mali, that are not respecting civilian security, safety, and in the excuse of fighting, VEOs often get civilians in their sights.
So that vacuum is basically filled by Wagner and the Islamic extremists?
I think that is clearly solidly the case in Mali. It is still it's not fully developed in Burkina Faso and in Niger. It is very concerning that we have seen Wagner officials in speaking to the leadership in Burkina Faso, and then we are seeing Russian Ministry of Defense officials in Niger.
Are you concerned about, when I chaired the Homeland Security Committee, it was during the rise of ISIS and the caliphate. Are you worried about that phenomenon happening in the Sahel right now, and how sophisticated could they be in terms of external operations?
One of the reasons why we have had a long-standing security cooperation relationship with the Nigerian armed forces was exactly because of the concern that control of territory, freedom to operate, could create an even more complicated situation if the ISIS forces and the JNIM forces in the region believe they then have the ability to operate externally. And it's the reason why we need to continue to work with those partners that we can work with to counter that.
Have you seen any designs or plans of them to aspire to external attacks, or is it just more focused on in the Sahel?
At this point, the focus of those groups is assessed to be in the Sahel.
Right.
So here we go again. In this briefing, they're still focusing on the Wagner Group is in Africa, or Russia is in Africa, and Russia is helping because the three Sahel countries, which is Burkina, Niger, and Mali, keep the French out, put them out. They are saying, oh, there's a vacuum. So what they're saying now, they're gonna have the Russians coming in and, gonna cause havoc in the country. But I beg to differ for many reasons. There's so many reasons that's number one. That's a narrative they're trying to paint, because what America try to do, they like to paint a narrative and talk about terrorist groups farming in certain countries with the mindset of going to invade these countries. Or they'll talk about human rights and LGBTQ rights, and then they use that as a catalyst to cause disruption and issues in countries. Do you know this distillation? Look, there's war going on in Sudan. They didn't mention Sudan, none at all. in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. They are burning flags right now, Western flags, like the French, the Americans. They said nothing about DRC. Why? Because DRC has what everyone's need: minerals, resources, coltan, you name it. DRC has it. Anyway, so these three nations have a handle, and they and before we go to these three nations, take a look at this. Put it up. This chart when it's showing since the French was in these countries, we're gonna look at the rate of um death rise by insurgents. Listen, since in 2011 there was 109 deaths when the French just reached in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. And look at the elevation of the insurgent that caused that wreak havoc in the countries up to 2020. Look, from 109 people that passing to six almost seven, let's call it 7,000 death occurred during the time the French was there. So this is why the coup. Well, this is one of the reasons why the coup happened, and this is also one of the reasons why they get kicked off of these three countries, because what Abraham Traore was saying, and um and the other presidents of Niger and Mali, they were saying that since the French came, they they have more terrorist attack, and they're losing more landmass to them, because they had lost up to 40% of the landmass in especially Burkina Faso. Because of what? How is it possible these insurgents are gaining ground in these countries when the French is there and the Americans are there? You guys have satellites, helicopters, warplanes, all kind of gadgets, and you cannot find these insurgents and take care of them. Why is it they keep getting more foothold in these countries and kidnapping citizens and unaliving citizens? That made no sense. So this is what it was, Abraham Traore was saying. How is that possible? So they kicked them out and said they will deal with themselves. And since the French leave these three countries, the the rate has dropped dramatically when it comes down to insurgents taking, kidnapping, or unaliving any members or citizens of these countries. And also, they had pushed them way back and regained their country. So they occupy a small percentage currently in Burkina Faso, but they are still working on getting them out. But he recovered over 30% of the land that they take. Not the land, the region that they captured. The Burkina Faso army recaptured it. Why? Because they bought he upgraded his army for one. The Russians gave he bought um arms from Russia, Iran, Turkey. He got drones from Turkey. They got armored vehicles from Egypt. They got weapons and gadgets from Russia and Iran and also China. China gave them a lot of equipment as well. So because of this now, they push the insurgents way back, and this is to show it's in a direct contrast to what the Americans are saying in their briefing. They are saying there's a vacuum. The Wagner group is there. The Russian is there. Yes, technically the Russians are there, but why? Abraham Traore explained this in our interview. He said the reason why the Russians are there is because they bought arms, weapons from Russia. So Russia send whenever time you order arms from any country, which includes Iran, Egypt, Turkey, China, and Russia, they send people with the arms to train them how to use them, to maintain them, and if they get damaged, how to repair them. That's what these guys are in Burkina Faso as advisors and trainers to train the. So yes, they are there, but it's like the Wagner Group, as the American briefing is claiming. The Wagner Group, everything is the Wagner Group. As long as they're Russian, it's the Wagner Group. So that's why Abraham Traore said Russian has not fired one shot and they're on the battlefield in assistance when it comes on to them fighting insurgents. No, they are there solely as advisors, trainers, and teach them how to maintain and repair the arms and how to use them. That's it. But if you notice, in the briefing, they mentioned nothing about the Iranians in Burkina Faso. They mentioned nothing about the Egyptians. They mentioned nothing about the Chinese. They mentioned nothing about the Turkey. So why is it you're only focusing on Russia? Why they have all these other 5 countries in there training them? But no one but an eye. No one is batting an eye about these other countries. Only Russia they're focusing on. And they like to throw around the words like terrorists when they're talking, when these briefing in these countries because they want to use it as I said earlier, as a catalyst to launch them into war. Because like America cannot do without causing something somewhere because that's how the economy thrives is on war. And without that, they don't have anything else to distract their citizens of better their lives. So that's why I say that they don't like the fact that these 3 countries are becoming more sovereign. They're taking their country in the right direction, and they hate that they don't have any foothold and they don't have any puppets there they can use to get by these countries into line. And that's what they fear the most. They fear these countries come out of leave out of their grip. Like they don't want them to. They want to have their claws in them. Think about it. America has around 27 bases in Africa, but yet they still have insurgent incline. And one more thing too, that Abraham Traore said in in an interview he did a couple of days ago. America do not sell arms to African countries. France does not sell arms to African countries. Germany, all those big European countries who talking about insurgents and terrorism and all this, they don't sell arms to these countries. They only sell non-lethal arms. So the non-lethal arms. So how do you expect these people to develop themselves if you're not upgrading their army? They're keeping their army at a base level with simple weapons where the insurgents have even better weapons on them. So how do you expect them to fight? But now, Abraham Traore and the other leaders from Burkina Faso and Niger shine the light on this problem where they are getting arms and they are pushing the insurgents back out their country and regaining grounds. This is what they don't want because they're gonna say, okay, other African countries gonna come and try the same thing. They're gonna kick us out, get arms from Russia, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, China, upgrade their army to the level of where they don't need them. And one more important key factor in this, Russia is gonna build a nuclear factory, a nuclear site in Burkina Faso, and that is another kick in the face to the Americans because they don't want no African countries to have nuclear, nothing, nuclear energy, nuclear weapons, nothing. Because what? That's how they keep their foot on the necks of African countries by keeping them the armies underdeveloped. So anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. That's key. Boom.